I thought it was just another awkward joke made in the middle of an exhausting day. I never imagined those careless words would change two broken lives forever. Sometimes fate doesn't knock politely on your door. Sometimes it hears a joke and quietly answers, okay. What followed wasn't a love story anyone could have predicted. It was a story about loneliness, healing, impossible choices, and discovering that home isn't always a place. It can be another person. Before we begin, if you believe that kindness can change lives and that everyone deserves a second chance, please take a moment to like this video, leave a comment, share it with someone who needs hope today, and subscribe to the channel. Your support helps us bring more heartfelt stories like this one. Nathan Brooks had lived in a small apartment building in Portland, Oregon for almost 4 years. At 38, his life had become painfully predictable. Every weekday began before sunrise, with a long commute to the hospital where he worked as a respiratory therapist. Every evening ended with microwave dinners, old baseball games playing softly on television, and silence that seemed to grow heavier with every passing year. 2 years earlier, his wife had passed away after a long illness, leaving behind memories that filled every corner of the apartment. Friends tried to help at first, but grief has a strange way of convincing people to disappear. Eventually, Nathan stopped answering invitations, because pretending to be okay required more energy than he had left. The only unusual part of his routine was the occasional noise coming from the apartment upstairs. Someone had recently moved in. At first, he heard furniture being dragged across the floor. Then, footsteps late into the night, followed by long stretches of complete silence. A week later, he finally met the new tenant while carrying groceries into the building. Her name was Rachel Turner, a woman in her early 30s with tired eyes that looked much older than the rest of her face. She smiled politely, apologized for the noise, and disappeared upstairs before the conversation could continue. Weeks turned into months, and they developed the kind of friendship that exists only between neighbors who happen to cross paths. They exchanged greetings in the hallway, helped each other carry heavy boxes, and occasionally shared homemade food left outside each other's doors. Nathan noticed Rachel often returned home long after midnight wearing scrubs from a nearby nursing home. She looked exhausted almost every day, but she never complained. Still, there was sadness in her expression that reminded him of someone trying very hard not to fall apart. One rainy evening, the building's ancient plumbing burst, sending water pouring through Nathan's kitchen ceiling. Maintenance workers rushed in, while Rachel came downstairs apologizing over and over as water dripped from her apartment into his. Standing ankle-deep in water, soaked from head to toe, Nathan laughed for the first time in months. Trying to lighten the moment, he shrugged and jokingly said that maybe she should just move downstairs and save everyone the trouble. Rachel didn't laugh. Instead, she stared at him for several long seconds before quietly saying that she actually might have to. Nathan thought she was still joking until he noticed tears beginning to fill her eyes. She explained that the nursing home had reduced her hours, rent had increased again, and she had already received an eviction notice. She had been skipping meals to pay bills, selling belongings online, one by one, and pretending everything was fine, because she had no family left to ask for help. Her parents had died years earlier, and her younger brother had vanished after struggling with addiction. She had nowhere else to go. Nathan felt something shift inside him. Loneliness recognizes loneliness better than anyone else ever could. After a sleepless night filled with doubt and memories, he made an offer that sounded reckless even to himself. Rachel could stay in his spare bedroom until she got back on her feet. There would be no rent, no deadlines, and no pressure. Just a roof over her head. The following weekend, they carried the few boxes that remained of Rachel's life down one flight of stairs. Living together wasn't easy at first. Both carried invisible scars, neither knew how to explain. Nathan still woke up in the middle of the night, expecting to hear his late wife's voice. Rachel suffered nightmares she refused to discuss. They politely stayed out of each other's way, eating meals at different times, and treating the arrangement like two strangers sharing a waiting room. Little by little, the walls began to disappear. Nathan started cooking real dinners again, because one portion always turned into two. Rachel brought home fresh flowers from the grocery store whenever they were discounted. The apartment slowly transformed from a museum of grief into a place where laughter occasionally echoed through the rooms. Weekends were spent repainting old furniture, watching classic movies, and taking long walks along the Willamette River. Neither realized healing had quietly begun. Then everything changed again. Rachel collapsed at work after ignoring severe exhaustion for weeks. Doctors discovered she had been living with an autoimmune disorder that had gone untreated because she couldn't afford regular medical care. Recovery would take months. Without hesitation, Nathan drove her to appointments, managed medications, and sat beside hospital beds exactly as strangers had once done for his wife. But this time, he wasn't losing someone. He was helping someone find her way back. During those difficult months, Rachel finally shared the truth she had hidden. After losing her family, she had convinced herself she wasn't worth loving anymore. Every setback became proof that she was destined to face life alone. Nathan admitted he had spent years believing his own story had ended the day his wife died. Neither realized they had been surviving instead of living. Spring arrived with warm sunshine replacing endless rain. Rachel regained her strength and accepted a better position at a rehabilitation center. Nathan smiled more than anyone at work could remember. Neighbors noticed lights staying on later, music drifting through open windows, and fresh flowers blooming on the apartment balcony. One evening, while sorting through old boxes, Nathan found a photograph of himself and his late wife. He expected overwhelming sadness. Instead, he felt gratitude. She had taught him what love looked like, and because of that lesson, he had recognized someone desperately needing compassion when life placed Rachel in his path. Months later, Rachel signed the lease for a nearby apartment after saving enough money. Moving day finally arrived. Nathan helped carry every box upstairs into her new place, just as they had once carried them downstairs together. Before leaving, Rachel hugged him tightly and whispered that the worst day of her life had become the beginning of her best one, because one tired neighbor had made a joke that accidentally became an act of grace. Nathan walked back to his apartment alone, but for the first time in years, it didn't feel empty. He understood that home had never been about avoiding loneliness. It had always been about opening the door when someone else needed shelter. If this story touched your heart even a little, please like this video, share it with your family and friends, and subscribe for more emotional stories that remind us how powerful kindness can be. Special request: please comment below with the words, "Kindness changes lives." If you believe one small act of compassion can completely transform someone's future. Sometimes, the greatest miracles don't arrive with dramatic signs or impossible coincidences. Sometimes they begin with an ordinary conversation, a simple joke, and the courage to mean it when someone quietly says, "Okay." In a world where so many people carry invisible burdens, we may never realize that one open door, one warm meal, or one unexpected invitation could become the moment another human being starts believing in tomorrow again. And perhaps that is the greatest reminder of all, that even broken hearts still have enough room to become someone else's safe place.